Probability. I know you've heard that term before, but let's take a moment to define it. Probability is the chance that an event will occur. Don't know how to spell. Probability is the chance that an event will occur. So you probably hear a probability on the news every single night. The chance that it's going to rain, a 50% chance or a 20% chance. That's exactly what a probability is. Probability is usually given in a fraction, but it can be given in a percentage, it can be given in a decimal, because we know from conversions that all of those numbers are interchangeable. So, oh my goodness, a fraction, you're scared? I hope not, because it's really easy. So let's take a look at our first question. What are your chances of flipping a coin and it landing on heads? Well, let's think about it. We have on a two-sided coin, which all coins are two-sided, we have one heads and one tail. And we want to get heads. So there's our part, is how many heads do we have? We have one heads, and then we have two total sides. We know, because we know what fractions are, it is always set up as a part over whole. Fraction, the definition of a fraction doesn't change just because we're using it in a different concept. A fraction is always a part over a whole. So the number of heads that we have is our part, and our total number of sides is our whole. Okay? 4 different colored cubes are placed in a brown bag. What is the probability of drawing a yellow cube? So right here are cubes. It says how many are yellow? Well, we have one cube that's yellow, and then it says how many total are in the bag. Well, there were 4 total. So the probability of drawing a yellow cube would be 1/4. Really simple, right, guys? I told you. Really, really simple. Just because it's a fraction, do not let that scare you. We know what probability is. We just got to set it up into a fraction. Now, example 2. The spinner is spun and a coin is tossed. So this is just a little bit different. We've got 2 things going on now. Anytime we have multiple probability, it's called a composite probability. But really what you need to know is that each probability gets its own fraction. You look at them one at a time. So the first thing, what is the probability that the spinner will land on an even number? So here's my spinner. I've got a 2 and a 4. There are 2 even numbers. How many even numbers on the spinner? There are 2. How many total numbers on the spinner? There were 4. Okay, so the probability or chance of spinner landing on an even number is 2 out of 4, which can be reduced to 1/2. That was our first event we wanted to happen. And then the second one is we're going to flip a coin. How many heads on a coin? Well, there's 1. Okay, how many total sides on the coin? There is 2. So the probability of a coin landing on heads is 1/2. So we've taken a look at each probability individually. So the probability of the spinner landing on an even number and the coin landing on heads is we take our 2 probabilities and we multiply them together to get a final probability of both things happening. So multiplying fractions, we know it's top times the top and the bottom times the bottom. 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. So the probability of both those events happening is 1/4. Simple, simple, right? What is the probability that the dice will land on a multiple of 3 and the spinner will land on the number 1? Well, look at each probability. We've got dice, and then we've got a spinner. So the first thing we're going to look at is the dice. We've got, on this dice, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what is the probability of a multiple of 3? We've got 1 multiple of 3, 2 multiples of 3. So how many multiples of 3? We've got 2. How many total numbers on the dice? There are 6. So the probability of landing on a multiple of 3 is 2 out of 6, which can be reduced to 1/3. You always want to reduce because it means you're dealing with smaller numbers, okay? How many number 1s on the spinner? Well, there is 1 right here, and that's it. Okay, so 1. How many total numbers on the spinner? There are 8. So the probability that it will land on 1 is 1/8. So the probability that the dice will land on a multiple of 3 and, whoops, that should not say dice, sorry, and the spinner landing on the number 1 is, well, the first probability was 1/3. The second probability is 1/8. So the probability of both of those things happening is 1 out of 24. So now we know how to find a single probability and a composite probability.